All right, good morning. So today what we're talking about is a brand new thing. Well, not brand new, like we've done it before, but it's brand new for this distance learning thing, okay? We are talking about, let me get my one paper. We are talking about factoring polynomials, okay? Factoring polynomials. Now this might sound familiar because it is familiar. We did this before spring break, okay? And we were gonna do it after spring break, but you all know what happened there. So we're gonna go back and review it a little bit, okay? So when we're factoring polynomials, the first thing we need to know is our equation has to be in standard form, okay? Now we just did an assignment over standard form, or you should have at least. And standard form, if you remember, is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, okay? That is standard form. So I'm gonna put a little star over here, okay? That's standard form, okay? And the key thing about this standard form is it has to be largest exponent to smallest, okay? That's how it needs to be organized. So it needs to go, see how it goes from x squared to an x to no exponent, okay? To no variable, okay? That's how it always needs to go. Ax squared plus bx plus c. If it's out of order, just switch it, okay? It's not a problem. The other thing we need to do when we start factoring is we need to label, okay? I want you to label your A, your B, and your C, okay? Hopefully you remember from yesterday from the notes, okay? A, I'm gonna use orange for A. A is this front number. B is the middle number attached to just the plain old x, or just the one variable. And then C is the constants, the number by itself, okay? So A, B, and C. We need to identify all three of those things every single time, okay? Then, once we do that, we're gonna use the x, okay? Hopefully this is slightly familiar. We're gonna use the x, okay? On the top of the x, and don't worry if you don't get this all right now, this is just, I'm just setting it up. So on the top of the x, that's where we put A times C. So whatever A value we have times whatever C value I have is gonna go here, okay? On the bottom of the x, I'm gonna put my B value, okay? And then on the sides, underneath here is gonna be just the A value. And then up top in these boxes, this is what we need to find. Those are gonna be our part of our factors, okay? So this is what we wanna find. All the other information we already have, right? We're gonna be given our A, B, and C, okay? So the only thing we have to find is these two boxes, okay? So that's how we're gonna set up each and every problem, okay? So from that, there's a few steps. There's actually specifically 7 steps that we have to do, okay? It sounds like a lot, but eventually you get really quick at it. So, steps. Okay, step 1 is we're just gonna write standard form, okay? That just means we need to make sure our equation is in the proper standard form. So we need to make sure it's going from largest exponent to smallest, and it's just like that, A, B, C. Ax squared plus bx plus c. That's the first step. Easy, we just check it. Step 2 is we're going to write our B term on the bottom of the x, okay? So whatever our B is, we're gonna plug that in right there at the bottom of the x. That's our second step, okay? The third step is gonna be A times C on top of the x, okay? So whatever our A value is times whatever our C value is gonna go on top of the x, right there, okay? Third step, see, we're already moving pretty fast. Let me kind of lift this up. There we go. Nope, don't fall. There we go. So fourth step is going to be to find the factors. It's gonna be find what we put inside those boxes. Okay, and to do that, there's a couple little, like, I guess, mini steps inside of there, okay, to find the factors. So what we need to do is we need to write two equations, okay? So the equations that we're going to use, and if you don't get it now, that's fine, are going to be f of x equals a times c over x, and then g of x, which is going to be a times c over x plus x, okay? Well, let me slide over. Where's this thing zoomed out? There we go. Okay, those are my two equations. So from there, once I have those two equations and put them into a graph, which we'll get to later, we're going to look for the b in g of x column. Okay, and I'll explain all of that later, okay? Don't worry about that right now. Step 5, so that was all step 4. Step 5 is going to be divide by a, okay? So with this 5th step, what we're doing is we're finding what's in these two boxes, okay? The 5th step tells me to divide whatever's in the boxes by a, okay? That's the 5th step. The 6th step is to reduce. So if I have like 9 over 3, that reduces to 3, okay? It just means do the division, right? We're gonna reduce it. And then 7 is we're gonna write the factors. So we're gonna write our final answer. Okay, we're gonna write the factors. And our factors should look, let me slide down some more. Our factors should look like this. So it's gonna be x plus or minus some number. And then another factor is going to be x plus or minus another number, okay? So we should have two separate factors like this, okay? And make sure you write them side by side. Don't stack them on top of each other. It's just not proper. This is how we do it, okay? So this is the steps, okay? I know it sounds like a lot. It looks like a lot. But when we see some examples, hopefully it'll make some sense, okay? So that's just the notes page. And again, I'm going to put, like I always do, I'm going to post this on the notes itself, so you don't have to make sure you copy it down. You can just print it out if you want. Let's go to an example. Okay, let's use these steps now. So, move my little platform. There we go. So let's look at example 1. Okay, so example 1 is going to be x squared minus 8x plus 15, okay? And I want to factor that polynomial, okay? So, first things first. Let's find our a, our b, and our c, okay? That's the first thing you should do. So, looking at the polynomial, remember, a is the one that's in the very front. It's in the one by the x squared, right? It's the number by the x squared. So, if I look at this, I don't have a number in front of the x squared, right? But we have to remember, if I just have an x squared, I have an imaginary 1 in front of there, okay? So my a is going to be 1, okay? Now I go to my b. My b is whatever's in front of just the x, or just the one variable, okay? No exponents. So my b is going to be -8. So put that right there, okay? And then c, that's the constant, that's in the back, so that is a positive 15, or just 15. That's how we can write that, okay? So a, b, and c are done. We knocked that out, okay? Now we draw the x. So I'm gonna draw that right over here. Okay, I have my x. So if I'm following my steps, okay, so let's go back to my steps. I need to put the b term, well, we already did standard form, we checked that, we listed them all out. Step 2, the b term goes on the bottom of the x, okay? So, at the bottom of my x, I should have a b. But what is my b term? -8. So I'm going to go and put a -8 here, okay? Now my next step, a times c goes on top of the x, okay? So I'm going to write a times c, and then I'm going to actually multiply them. So a, which is 1, times 15 gives me 15, right? 1 times 15 is 15. So a times c is 15, okay? Then I can't forget about the left and right side. So I need to put over on both of these, a. So my a value is 1. So there's going to be a 1 underneath both of these, okay? And then these boxes are what I need to find. Okay? That make sense? Hopefully. I don't know why I asked the question. Y'all can't hear me. Next step. Now we're going to find the factors, okay? So remember, there was 2 equations that we needed to write. So this first equation that we're going to write, we're going to label it f of x, okay? F of x. So f of x, the first equation I'm going to find is a times c over x, okay? So using my a times c, my new equation is going to be 15 over x. Okay, so that's one equation. That's part of what's going to help me find these boxes. Okay, now let's go to g of x. Okay, so g of x is just a times c over x plus x. Okay, so it's the exact same thing, but all we have to do is tack on that x at the end. Okay, hopefully you're with me so far. So once I have these 2 equations, I'm going to graph them. So this is how I'm going to show you to graph them, okay? You can do it on your phone. It's really easy, or an iPad, whatever you got. I'm going to do it on my phone, because I know a lot of y'all have that. You're going to use this app right here. It's called GeoGebra, okay? It's a graphing calculator. It looks just like this, okay? Let me pull it up. So it's GeoGebra, okay? This is what we're going to use to graph. So what you want to do is on the first line, you're going to type the first equation. So 15 over x, just like that, okay? And you're going to go and click these 3 dots. You're going to click that, and you're going to click table of values, okay? From here, it's going to give you it's going to ask you how big you want the table. So what I would suggest to do is do negative, let's say 15 to positive 15. Oh, no, sorry. Positive 15. So it should look like that. And then leave that as 1, okay? So change those values to those and then click OK. So now it gives me a table of values, okay? That's what I want. But I still have my second equation. So I want you to click back to the calculator button where it says input, click that, and you're going to type the second equation right there. So 15 over x, and kind of space to the right, plus x, like that, okay? And you don't have to really click anything. You just click the 3 dots again, click table of values again, and now both of the tables come up here, okay? So watch what I'm going to do. So when I pull up the table, remember, now I need to look for the b in the g of x column. So I'm going to write it out. So I'm going to look for -8, because that's my b. I'm going to look for -8 in the g of x column, okay? So if I look back at my table, right? The g of x column is the 3rd column. It should be the 3rd column, okay? So I'm going to look for -8 in this column. So I'm going to scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, and look at that. I see -8 in the g of x column, okay? So watch how I'm going to write it. So see, g of x is right there. So when g of x equals -8, okay? Once you have that -8 or whatever number you're looking for in the 3rd column, you're going to slide over to the 2 numbers in front of it, okay? So when g of x equals -8, x equals -5, and f of x equals -3, okay? So I'm going to write that down. So x equals -5, and f of x equals -3, okay? So those 2 numbers right there, this right here, boom, this right here, boom, those are what's going to go in these 2 boxes, okay? So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to move these 2 up here. So -5, -3, okay? And that's really all for that step, okay? Now we're on to step 5. We're going to divide by a, okay? So remember, a is this bottom one. So let's go here. What's negative 5 divided by 1? It's just negative 5. What's negative 3 divided by 1? It's just negative 3. Okay? So these are my two factors. Okay? We don't have to do any reducing. We don't have to do any of that. All we need to do is write the final answer. Okay? So the final answer we're going to write is that the factors are x minus 5 and, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to write it like that. X minus 5, let me write that again. The factors are x minus 5, x minus 3, okay? That's the final answer. That's how you write it, okay? We just take whatever's here and we plug it into make it into factors, okay? So it's x minus 5, x minus 3. So just take that answer, box it, and you're done, okay? That's the first example. I know it seems like a lot, but it gets a lot faster, I promise, okay? So let's try one more example. Okay, so there's number 1. Again, I'm going to post these later. Let's look at number 2. Okay, so let me put my platform up here. Okay, so number 2. Let's do x squared plus x minus 20. Okay? Okay, so same thing. Let's label our A, B, and C. Okay? So, first things first, let's start with A. So again, A, I have no number in front of x squared, so that means that my A value is 1. So we just put a little 1 there, okay? Next, we go to our B value. So my B value is what's in front of the x. So if I look here, I don't have anything in front of the x. But just like the x squared, there's an imaginary 1. Okay, there's 1x here, right? There was 1x squared here. Okay, now let's go to the constant, the c. So my constant is negative 20. Make sure you put that minus sign for the negative, okay? Because it's negative 20. Okay, and we got all that. So let's go to our x. So we draw the x, okay? Remember, we always start by writing our b at the bottom here. So my b value for now is 1. So we write that 1, okay? At the top, we put a times c. So 1 times negative 20 is negative 20. So I'm going to put a negative 20 up top, okay? And then remember on the left and right, we put our fraction bar. I put my a, which is 1, underneath here. And then I leave these as just plain old boxes. This is what we're going to find. Those are going to be my factors, okay? So hopefully y'all with me so far. Now we're on to our equations, okay? Our two equations. So first equation, f of x equals, remember, a times c over x. So a times c, negative 20 over x. One equation down, okay? Next one, g of x. So g of x, remember it's a times c over x plus x. So I get negative 20 over x plus x, okay? That's it. So now we go back to our calculator, okay? I know I'm moving a little fast, but y'all can pause it if you need to or rewind or whatever. Ooh, that's text message. Okay, so here, let's go to type in our first equation. So negative 20 over x, okay? And then remember, hit the 3 dots, table of values. And this one, let's do the same thing. Negative 15 to 15, okay? Okay, and we get our table. So now we go back to the calculator, type in our second equation, click input, negative 20 over x, slide over 1, plus x table of values, and there we go, okay? So now what we're looking for is, remember, we're looking for the b value in the g of x column, okay? So I'm gonna look for, so for this one, I'm looking for 1, because that's my b, in the g of x column, okay? So let's go to the columns. So I'm looking for 1 in this third column. So I'm looking, and there we go. I have a 1 in the g of x column. So I'm going to write down when g of x equals 1, okay, x equals -4, and f of x equals 5. Okay? I don't know why I did. Dang, I didn't mean to do that. Oh well. F of x equals 5. Okay? So, if you remember what we did last time, we take what we got here and we put these answers into these boxes. So I'm going to put -4 up here and 5 up here. Just like that. Okay? So now this is the easy part. So all we do now is, remember, we reduce, or we divide by a. So -4 divided by 1, -4. Right? Easy. Nothing, no math. 5 divided by 1, it's just 5. If you don't know that, you can put it in the calculator, but anything divided by 1 is just itself. Okay? So now we write our final answer. So we write factors are, okay, so first factor, I have a -4 here, -4. So x -4, okay? This one, I have a +5. So we start with x plus 5. And that's it. Box our answer, we're good to go, okay? That's 2 examples done, okay? So again, I'm going to post these. You don't have an assignment today, but you will tomorrow on factoring, okay? All you need is paper and the GeoGebra app, okay? And I'll put like links to all this stuff tomorrow, okay? So y'all have a good day. And make sure you print out your notes, read the notes, watch the videos, all that good stuff, okay? And I'll talk to y'all later.